Hello, Stephen Andrews, Outlaw Bookseller here. Here we are in sunny Bath. It's just after 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, Saturday the 30th of April. What was planned today was a big mountain trip in South Wales, walking from Caerphilly over Groeswan and Eglwysillyn and into Pontypridd. However, due to poor research by myself, not a regular thing, my research is normally impeccable, I'm told by one of the other chaps that there are no trains down the Taff Valley from Treherbert to Cardiff, which includes Pontypridd. So we're going to have to revise our plan. So I don't really know what's going to happen today. It's going to involve South Wales, so we'll see. So I'm here with my ex-bookselling compatriots, Colin and Trevor, waiting here for Mark, the fourth member of our erstwhile quartet, hanging around for the man from Swansea as ever. So, the man is late. Got a text message saying, "Hideous journey, sardines," which for a moment I took literally, and I realised because it was a metaphor for a packed train from Swansea. But I quite like the idea of, literally having problems on the train because of sardines. Takes me back to Italy, having sardines in Sorrento by a restaurant down at what's Marina Grande there, which funny enough in Sorrento, Marina Grande is the small marina rather than the big one. Sitting there with a video we're and having a great meal of sardines and pasta. This family run this restaurant, and absolutely beautiful daughter was like the waitress, and oh god, yeah, I wish I was in Italy now, and here I am in Cardiff. Great. Yeah, so as I say, I was going to show you something like this. And that would have led to something like this. And that would have led to something like this. And that would have led to something like this. Okay, so it's planning fails all round because apparently it's the Women's Six Nations today, which is just like, it's bad enough in Wales with men playing rugby all the time and talking and thinking about nothing else, but women as well. There really is no hope. So we're going to stroll off and have a coffee, I think, to start. Cardiff is getting higher and higher. I just failed to capture somebody falling over, and basically it was suggested that I did a playlist called Steve Schadenfreude, or SS, which I don't really think would go down very well with YouTube. The secret, of course, when you're at the age of the Outlaw Bookseller is to avoid low angle shots. Unfortunately, we have no other option. So we're here at Coffee Barker. And of course, as soon as you decide to shoot surreptitiously, a huge number of people go past and they start to misbelieve maybe that you're some sort of Welsh TV star, which you're not. I'm just going to show you the cake. Isn't that awesome? It's gone all over the table, but you know, what can you do? Anyway, do come here, Castle Arcade, very good. It's basically ending up the same as my other Cardiff videos. I'm going to go to Troutmark Books again, and I've got the posse behind me, as you see. Do I like that word? I don't really. I don't like posse. I remember what's an appropriate epithet. Crew? No. Gang? None of it really seems to fit. Tranche? You know, it's a little bit sort of, you know, fiscal, isn't it, really? So we'll see. Anyway, Troutmark Books, Castle Arcade it is. Still got his Philip K. Dicks there in the window. There we go. If you go to Hay on Wye to Adiman Books, Derek there, he's got a thing in his door which looks like the mock-up of an old crime novel. Oh, yeah. And it says, the title is, "The Customer is Wrong." Just, which, you know, is not strictly true, but, you know, it's definitely not always right, that much is for sure, you know. So. Alright, let's have a look upstairs. Oh, actually, last time I came, I was thinking I'd have a look here. Pat Frank. Pity these are not 70s ones. An amazing collection of mint Doc Smiths. There's an odd Van Vogt. There's loads of Andrew Norton here, not somebody I'm massively famous of, but the Doc Smiths are in absolutely fantastic nick. So I can have all of these, and they're very, very cheap indeed. Because normally there's a Lindsay Gutteridge. Normally you see these online and there's loads of them everywhere and they're rubbish. There's some James White, again in really fantastic nick, so I'm going to have a pile of those as well. So that's a really, really good little haul there. Intact spines, undamaged fronts, nice and bright. There's not much toning on the text block. Absolutely amazing. Like one of these is online like this in this condition is £18. Fantastic. That's the chaps ahead of me, trio of fine men. As you see, they're dressed for mountain walking. Everybody else, you know, is in t-shirts and stuff, which is fairly typical. It's just a complete lack of utter glamour. But you know, they're good guys, you know, this is the thing. As always with Outlaw Bookseller, there's a Ballardian structure, and you know, it looks like Supercan, but it's not, it's Cardiff Bay. And what you can see there in the background is Penarth, which is rather nice. We might do a video there one day. But yeah, you know, it's the usual coastal scape, you know, people in their immaculate flats, you know, dreaming sort of about psychopathology and all that stuff. So, and I guess I should say I am going to do something for Deep Ends this year. If you're short on the bay, the old Scandinavian church. The Smudger, the literary cat, having a big yawn, usurping the Outlaw Bookseller's seat. So as you see, the trip to Cardiff with the intention to go to Caerphilly and then walk over the mountain didn't come off. As I said, the trains were cancelled down the whole Taff Valley. That didn't mean we couldn't get to Caerphilly. We could get to Caerphilly because that's in the Rhymney Valley, and we could have walked up the mountain, but it would have been getting back from Pontypridd. We could have taken a bus, but it takes ages, and you know, the guys are sort of thinking, oh, it's going to be a long day, you know, the pub at the top of the mountain is shut, you know, so we couldn't really justify it. And of course the rugby sort of thing in Cardiff put the nail, you know, in the coffin there. And of course, you know, I don't mind if people like rugby, that's fine. But the problem is, where I come from in South Wales, it's like a fundamentalist religion. And, you know, if you're not that keen, you do get a bit sick of it. So my apologies to everybody who likes rugby. I hope you all enjoyed it yesterday. I quite like watching women playing rugby, especially if there's a team of them against me and they have the sort of builder. Like, I'd be up for that. But there you go. That's another story. So I thought I'd do the sort of science fiction book haul bit. So yeah, I went to Troutmark, and, you know, it is really good. So if you're in Cardiff, do visit it. And somebody had obviously dropped off a collection there, and the lady behind the counter, who usually gives me a discount, she knocked some money off for me. She talked about 12 quid off the total for me, which was really great because the books were good value anyway, and she gave me one for nothing, which is fantastic. So I'll talk you through, and they know I've done a video about the shop before, so if you haven't seen it, do have a look back at my book shopping and book hauls playlist, and you'll see the one about Cardiff there. And I just thought I'd talk you through what I got, because the condition of the stuff I got was fantastic. And as I say, somebody had offloaded a collection, and she told me, the lady told me behind the counter, told me that they'd come in biscuit tins. And a lot of these books, I can guarantee you, are unread, or they've been read by a professional reader who is probably a bookseller like me, if they've been read at all, because they're in spectacular nick. And amongst the usual stuff they had there, I started to get a hint that there was something unusual going on, because I go strictly A to Z when I got to David Eddings in E, and there was some mint David Eddings there, the sort of Malorian, the second of his quincunces, his 5-book series. There was every single one in A format original apart from the first one, and they were mint. And I was tempted almost for nostalgia, because I used to sell loads of David Eddings, I particularly like him, so, but I thought no. Then I got to Catherine Kurtz, who these days is a fairly obscure fantasy writer, and there were several books by her there which were in A format, and they were American editions, and they were alternative histories. I'd never seen them before, so I did pick a couple of them up, but I put them back because I couldn't have carried everything. So just to talk through what I got, there were 3 shelves full of Andre Norton books in A format, and I'm not a massive Andre Norton fan. She of course was one of the world's first seriously sort of considered fantasy writers, Sword and Sorcery. That's a Rodney Matthews cover, and this is Witch World, the first one. I'm a big fan of having the first book in a series when it comes to sort of quality fantasy, because usually that's enough. And this is a tandem Wyndham book for 75p. Rodney Matthews cover. The guy used to do all sorts of covers for all sorts of bands and stuff, and he did some Elroy pictures as well. Fantastic. So that's really nice. I was tempted by the others because there were some lovely ones there. So if you like Andre Norton and you're trying to fill your collection, get on the phone to Troutmark. I'm sure they'll help you out, because they had loads and loads there, probably her entire oeuvre. Also, I saw there the 3rd book in Lindsay Guttridge's trilogy. Now these are quite minor, but I got the first one in Hay a little while ago, and this is the 3rd one, Fratricide is a Gas, which is like one of the best titles ever. Such a sort of hippie title, and yet he was about 50 when he wrote this. He wasn't like a young guy, you know, but Fratricide is a Gas. These are quite minor, as I say, but I mean, you can't really argue with a miniaturized guy fighting a praying mantis on the cover, can you really? is fantastic. If you want to read a great novel about miniaturization, read The Men Inside by Barry Malzberg, which is about guys who are shrunk down and they go into human bodies to perform operations, cancers and things like that. It's really, really grim, like all of Barry's stuff. But I'll do a video about Barry at some point because I love his work. So that's Fratricide is a Gas. And I got some other stuff as well. James White, the chap who focuses on stories set in a huge space station, which is like an interstellar hospital. I've mentioned him before. I got 5 of his books, and this is 5 of the first 6. The one I'm missing is Sector General, and this is Hospital Station, which is the first one. James White was from Ulster, Northern Ireland. And these are sort of fix-ups, really. They're mostly sort of things which are published in magazines. They'd be published in anthologies like New Writings in SF. And they're very witty and very inventive and clever. That's the first one. And this is a Corgi collector's library thing. They've got these sort of non-shiny and textured covers, which I'm not particularly fond of, but they're quite characterful books in their own way. And this is the second one, Star Surgeon. So that's that one. And I think my friend Stuart Pike, whose birthday it is today, hey Stu, happy birthday. I think he likes James White. Major Operation next, and this is a Ballantine. That one needs a bit of a clean, actually. I haven't cleaned these yet. They're mostly pretty pristine. That was about the worst quality book I got, so that sort of just goes to show really what they were in. And there's a Del Rey copy of Ambulance Ship. So this collector obviously went through the lot. And this is the Orbit edition of Star Healer, which I think is the 6th one. I think Sector General is the 5th one. There's a couple after that. And these are the ones I remember selling back in the 80s. And I do love Orbit, fantastic imprint of Futura, part of McDonald. And absolutely lovely. So really pleased to get those. So that's really bumped up my James White collection for when I'm in the mood for some medical SF. So that's great. Just lean over and get those out of the way. But what you will have seen in the mini bit about the haul is I got a load of Doc Smiths, which, and I've talked a lot about Doc Smith in this channel. I'm not a massive fan, if I'm honest. I mean, they're very clunky. Historically, they're very important. But they are very hard to get in good nick. Some of them especially. So I just thought filled a few gaps in the collection here because I do love these. They've got Chris Voss jackets. They're published by Panther. And then Panther, when it sort of makes the move and is bought by HarperCollins about 1983, then becomes Granada, and a few years later it becomes Grafton. And yeah, absolutely great. Subspace Explorers, which I got the second one round about Christmas time. This is the first one, and this is from 1975. So this is a UK Panther first. This very nice. And the thing with Doc Smith, of course, is that he sort of became, he was a bestseller. You know, they were obviously, he was writing pretty early on. He wrote Skylark of Space, the first one, between about 1950 and 1920. And then it appeared in Amazing, I think, in about 1928. And of course, they weren't in book form until the late 40s, early 50s, and they became bestsellers. And then they became bestsellers again sort of in the late 60s and 70s, you know, so he had quite a long sort of life. And, you know, he died in 1965 and he left lots of fragments and bits and pieces, and they were expanded by other people. And that's what happened with the sequel to Subspace Explorers. So then, you know, you get odd singletons like this one, Space Hounds of IPC, which is a kind of space piracy tale. And that's a late one as well, because he started writing again about when he retired. He wrote for about 5 years after he retired. He sort of took up writing again. And copyright, you know, I'm completely wrong about this being a late one. I mean, it was assembled late. Copyright 1931 by Radio Science Publications for Amazing. So there you go. So that is an early one, expanded, I believe. And speaking about the Golden Age, I mean, one of my favourite authors from that period, uneven but brilliant in terms of his concepts and ideas, if not in actual prose style, was A. Van Vogt. And this is The Weapon Makers, which is the second in the Weapon Shops diptych. And, you know, this is sort of really important stuff. And this is in really nice nick. You can get these, but they're usually complete state. And they have been reissued for years. And if you've never read The Weapon Shops, aka The Weapon Shops of Isher, and the weapon makers. They're really important books, and I think in the SF Encyclopedia, Clifton Nichols cite this as being, one of the finest examples of conceptual breakthrough, and they're set in quite sort of distant future, and there's this empire ruled by an empress called Imelda, and she's been in charge for like a long time, and there's towns everywhere, and then these shops just start opening up in suburban streets, and they're weapon shops, and you can buy weapons. It's very interesting stuff, very, very odd. And he was a huge influence on Philip K. Dick, of course, and there's a big sort of confrontation struggle in this, and it ends with this sentence which is never explained, and you could say it's a spoiler, but I'm going to read it to you because it is important to understand conceptual breakthrough as something that happens particularly at the end of a good SF story that turns the world on its head. When you go into the beginning of an SF story and there's novums, there are new things which sort of immediately show you're in another world, in a future, what have you, where tech has sort of changed things. This ends with the statement, "This much we have learned. Here is the race that shall rule the Sevagram." Now, the word Sevagram, that's the first and only time it appears in this book, and that's the end of the story. And nobody knows what the Sevagram is, but it hints at something far bigger. So the universe expands, the concept, the paradigm we're in gets bigger and bigger. And that use of the word Sevagram in this was deemed to be, one of the great moments of conceptual breakthrough in early genre SF. And just looking at when this was published, 1947 copyright, Smith and Street, recopyrighted 1952, and they're a magazine company, of course, and Smith and Street were the publishers of Astounding, which was the magazine that John W. Campbell Jr. edited, and Astounding later became Analog, and Astounding was the magazine that set the standard for pulpy SF that wasn't just westerns in space, and Campbell, of course, wrote Who Goes There, The Thing, and A. Van Vogt was one of his key things. It was published as a book by Weidenfeld and Nicholson in the UK in 1954. This edition dates from 1970. So you have to remember that genre science fiction didn't get called science fiction until about 1926. Some sources say 1929. I think it's 26. And it didn't start to appear in book form with the word science fiction on the cover until the very end of the 40s, early 50s, when small presses started collecting things from magazines, putting them together, fixing them up, and calling them science fiction on the actual book. So it was a magazine thing before that. So that's a great one to get. Very, very important. At some point we'll do more about Van Vogt, I think. And I completed my Skylark series. So I have the first one. I've always had the first one. And the later ones, Skylark 3. And as you see, this is a panther. Then Skylark of Valeron, which is the third novel in the sequence. And the final book in the sequence, the fourth and final book, Skylark Duquesne, Duquesne it says. I was reliably informed many, many decades ago by my friend Simon Beeson, who's from Jersey, so he's kind of francophile in a way, and that Duquesne is the correct way to spell that, to pronounce that name. And the great thing about these, if you've not read Skylark of Space, it is very clunky, but you should read it. And Skylark 3 is interesting because it's the second part. It's called Skylark 3. It rather throws people in the way that people think Second Foundation is the second Foundation book, when it's not, it's the third. So I kind of like that sort of thing. And lovely Foss covers, absolutely beautiful. They're unfaded. The text blocks are pretty clean as well. So it's like they've been in biscuit tins, apparently. So there you go. Maybe there's something about biscuit tins to sort of protect your old A formats in, who can say. But what I like about those is they're about the struggle between two rival inventors. There's Richard Seaton and Mark Blackie Duquesne, who's the bad guy, but they're both scientists, so it's kind of almost like a superhero supervillain thing, which is really great, and they're kind of his keynote works. There's the Lensman books. I've always preferred Skylark of Space to all the stuff I've read by him, so there you go. So I didn't just get them, I got a pile of other things as well, which on the face of it are all Doc Smith books. I'm going to show you the spines there. And what you notice is I've got them arranged in order of publication. And these are the Family D'Alembert series. And you'll see on the first one, it says Panther. And then after a couple, it says Granada, with the word Panther just above it. Then they go Granada for a while. And the last one is Grafton. and that indicates when they came out. So these were sort of coming out from the mid-70s through until, I think, the last one. There are 10 of these. This is the Family D'Alembert series, and I got 8 of them here, absolutely mint. Missing the Clockwork Traitor and Eclipsing Binaries, sadly. A great title, Eclipsing Binaries, I like that. And this is about a family who deal with all sorts of daring do and naughtiness all over the galaxy. And to say this is a 1985 one from Grafton, so that's pretty much the last one. That's Revolt of the Galaxy, which is volume 10. I've got 8 out of 10, so 2 to get. And as I say, on the cover they say E.E. Doc Smith, and then in tiny writing, I'll hold that right the way up, it says with Stephen Golding. Apart from this first one, they're all actually by Stephen Golding, because Family D'Alembert, this first one, Imperial Stars, there was a short story in the sort of 60s which Smith wrote, and Golding just expanded them. So I'm quite interested in reading these, because Golding, you know, obviously they're routine. I never paid much attention at the time as they were coming out. I was selling them a bit. I was very sort of not sort of for space opera in the 80s very much, so I was a solid new wave guy. So it's very interesting, but I was so excited to see these, because despite the difference in the color of the printing there, and that is a printing thing, not a fade thing, because they come from different times, you know, these are in absolutely superb condition. They've all got Foss covers, of course. There's Stranglers Moon, which is always a title that's resonated with me, because the Stranglers are my favorite rock and roll band. Getaway World, beautiful, aren't they? And you know, they've got no edgeware, they've got no cracked spines. I mean, you see these everywhere secondhand, but they're always in a complete state. Now this one here has got a crease down there. I picked it up because I thought, you know, you're getting such nice books here. They're in good nick. You shouldn't, you know, be unrealistic. And the lady let me have that one for nothing, which is fantastic. So that's great. Purity Plot. As I say, one of these, I've been watching one of these online with the dealer I buy from, and he has it in this condition, which is very fine to mint, for £18, which shows you how hard it is to get them. These were all pretty much £2.50 once the lady took the money off for me, which was great. So I'm really, really pleased. You know, these are things I would only buy in, you know, this condition. I wouldn't have bothered otherwise, and they really have racked up my nostalgia collection there from things I used to sell back in the 80s, so I was very pleased with that. And one more thing I got was in Bear Island Books, which is in the market in Cardiff. I didn't show it in this video. It is in my other Cardiff video. And I was and last time I went there, the owner wasn't there. I was talking to him about Hay on Wye when I was there yesterday. And he has some SF, and all of it's in the state. But I picked this up, Arthur C. Clarke of Time and Stars, The Worlds of Arthur C. Clarke, which is Gollancz, hardcover. It's in really, really great nick. I would say it's in excellent to near fine. And this was £3. 1983 edition. You know, the first edition was 1972, but I'm not too concerned because it's just a collection, and it's just really, really nice little Gollancz octavo book, and it's got a lot of the classic stories in, the things which I've read many times, you know, the things which sort of made his name, things like 9 Billion Names of God, which is the one about the computer calculating the names of God. That's a really good shock ending, and it's got the Sentinel in it, which of course became 2001. And sort of other sort of crackers as well, you know. So I'm not a massive fan of his prose style, but he does have great ideas. So yeah, so that was that. So that was my book haul from Cardiff. Hopefully next time I try and get out and do something, it'll be a little bit more successful. So, you know, we'll see. This is Outlaw Bookseller signing out for now. So far things have turned into a bit of a show, and as usual in Cardiff, I'm sitting outside Coffee Barker. I can have coffee and a cake. You know, I don't know whether any of this is worth watching. It's probably not, but you know, we'll see what comes out of it.